Ian's a great guy and he's a formidable opponent for Islam Makhachev, and even Khabib Nurmagomedov is worried about Ian Garry and how well he's going to do, because Islam's turning 35 years old, okay? And there's this whole curse about when you hit 35, you struggle to win fights and this and that. Although Alexander Volkanovski did break that myth, and this isn't even at lightweight anymore, it's at welterweight, so none of that matters. And he's not even 35 yet. He'll be 35 in October. But Ian Garry does possess some unique threats that Islam Makhachev hasn't faced before.
It's done in a way that's not like, oh, my hammer is going to be bigger than your hammer. It's always like, my hammer is going to be smarter than your hammer. And he finds a way to use his footwork, his positioning, his distance management, his timing, he's got so many attributes to draw on, but at the end of the day, the thing that wraps them all up into a beautiful package is his fight IQ and his ability to see the game from a broader perspective and make those adjustments in fight and even in round. But he's incredibly, I think sometimes he doesn't really get the props he should get about certain things. Like, he's incredibly accurate. In fact, I think he's got the 5th best striking accuracy in welterweight history. And that's like, sometimes we just say stats and we just like say them to say them. But when you think about what that means, that's a pretty devastating weapon to have. If when you fire, you land more than almost everybody else in the history of the division.
That's the name of the game, to be able to fire and land. Yeah. Well, the part of the reason why he doesn't get the credit is because we've blurred the lines between what he is and what we think about him. Mm-hmm. We've blurred those lines, and a lot of people don't want to like him. Either they don't like him, they don't want to like him, or they don't want to respect him based on who he is, based on who they think he is as a person. So they don't want to give him a lot of credit, and we just do that. We tend to treat people's fighting ability based on what we think about them as a person. Yeah. And they're two totally separate things. And as a fighter, he's a damn good, intelligent, effective fighter.
As UFC 330 comes closer, Islam Makhachev just dropped raw training footage and he looks locked in and ready for Ian Garry. While Michael Bisping believes Ian Garry brings a threat Islam Makhachev has never faced before, and that could make UFC 330 a serious nightmare for the champion. From Laura Sanko and Din Thomas as they break down why he could be a real threat to Islam Makhachev at UFC 330, as Islam Makhachev just dropped raw training footage and the message is clear, he's training like a man possessed ahead of Ian Garry. With UFC 330 getting closer, Islam looks sharper, stronger, and more dangerous than ever, sending a serious warning to Garry before fight night. Adding to that, Josh Thompson believes Ian Garry's biggest weapon against Islam is his ability to stay elusive and make himself incredibly difficult to catch. But if Islam gets too aggressive chasing him, he could walk straight into dangerous counters, and that's exactly the trap they have to avoid.
Let's talk about Ian Garry and Islam. Islam, obviously, this is a big deal for him, defending the title. For me, and I know you've seen the same exact thing, to me, the hardest part to deal with Ian Garry is catching him. It's like Rocky and the chicken. You've got to make sure that you don't rush into it and you're just wasting energy, not making yourself tired, trying to get a hold of him and not leaving yourself open in the process to get hit with some shots. You got to be very cautious, very careful. Is that what you're seeing as well? And how do you work around that with Islam to make sure he doesn't get?
Afterwards, Josh Thompson and Javier Mendez agree that Islam's striking is being seriously underestimated, and he has the skill set to stand with Ian Garry. Javier makes it clear that Islam doesn't have to rely solely on takedowns. He can expose Ian on the feet and force him to adapt. But when the takedown threat is hanging over Ian, Islam's striking becomes even more dangerous, creating openings for the big shots that could change the fight instantly.
100%. 100%. But equate that also this guy's got incredible stand-up. What you're saying, plus the guy can stand. Now think about that. Okay, don't think about he's a Khabib type striker. Think above that. Guy can strike. So now we're talking about a different animal here, because not only is he good on the ground, but he's good on stand-up also.
Look, I've been on the receiving end of his rear leg head kick, you know, because he sets it up very well. He does it in like kind of a flow motion state. He doesn't load it up. He just gets it up there quickly. And you and I have had this conversation because you were above the waist kickboxer. You said, you don't need to land a head kick hard. It's just got to land.
It's got to land.
That was one of the things. Yeah, you said if you get it there with speed and you get it there quickly and they don't see it, you don't need to land it hard. Don't load it up. Don't throw it hard. Just get it there, and it will almost always hurt them or drop them or put them to make them back up. That was something I took away for the longest period of time. Is I didn't have to get it up there hard and fast. Was Islam's approach, is that his rear leg head kick, it's sneaky good. Volkanovski fell victim to it. Other guys have fallen victim to it. I mean, ultimately, I think his stand-up is good enough to stand with Ian Garry, but I do appreciate the fact that you recognize.
In the final take, Josh Thompson and Javier Mendez expect a brutal 5-round war, with Javier refusing to overlook Ian Garry's ability to survive. Javier's mindset is simple: stay locked in from the opening bell to the final round, always hunting for the finish. No complacency, no letting up. Islam must stay dangerous for all 25 minutes.
My man. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna let you guys go and give me your last prediction on this thing, on Islam and Ian Garry. Give it to me how you think it's gonna go.
The way I always do, 5-round war. Islam has his way about how he wants to think. I have my way, and my way is I don't want to lose track of first round KO, first round submission, third round, fourth round. I want to stay engaged throughout the whole fight. The only way for me to be engaged is to not underestimate Ian's ability to keep it going 5 rounds. So I want to go 5 rounds mentality. I will always do that because it's good for me to stay sharp.
From a different perspective, Bisping believes Ian Garry has the perfect weapons to make Islam Makhachev's life miserable. His size, speed, length, and elite striking could create a nightmare matchup. Garry doesn't need to brawl. He can jab, move, kick, and keep Islam chasing him around the octagon. If Garry can maintain that distance and refuse to get trapped, Bisping believes he has a real chance to shock the champion.
But Ian Garry does have a unique challenge. He's 6'3", he's very long, he's quick, he's a good striker, and he's not afraid to spoil the fight, okay? And what I mean by that, and I did another video on this a while ago, so apologies for repeating myself, but he's happy to jab and jog, he's happy to pick him apart, he's happy to win on points, right? He's happy to just keep banging that jab and moving away. 1-2, move away. Little team kick, move away. Just keep dancing around that gigantic octagon. And it is a gigantic octagon. Let me tell you, when you first walk into one of those UFC octagons, you will be surprised at how big it is.
However, Bisping said, once Islam Makhachev gets his hands on Ian Garry, the fight could turn into an absolute nightmare for the Irishman. The takedown is only the beginning if Garry can't scramble back to his feet. Islam's relentless ground game and submission threat could shut the door fast. With 18 finishes and 28 wins, Makhachev isn't looking to control Garry, he's hunting for the finish.
But of course, he doesn't underestimate anyone. That's why Khabib was also one of the greatest ever as well. That's the mindset you gotta have. You go into every single fight thinking, this is the one. It's gonna be really tough. You leave no stone unturned and you get ready. But here's the reality of it. If Islam Makhachev gets a hold of him, he's gonna take him down really easy. And then the big question becomes, can Ian Garry get back to his feet? Because if he can't get back to his feet, then guess what? It's probably over. And we know that Islam Makhachev is a ridiculous finisher. It ain't going to look like Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis, not talking shit, but there was a lot of grappling, a lot of control time on that one. No, he likes to choke people out. 28 wins, 5 knockouts, 13 submissions. So he stopped 18 out of the 28 wins, okay? Right? The man's a finisher.
Bisping's final take is clean and clear. Islam Makhachev's striking simply isn't on Ian Garry's level, and that could force the champion to abandon the stand-up battle. Garry's speed, length, and precision give him a dangerous edge on the feet, making Islam's takedown game the real weapon to watch. If Islam can't close the distance, Ian could make him pay every second he stays standing.
Islam Makhachev would do that. I don't think he needs to do that, certainly not. And let's be honest, his striking isn't as good. It's not as good as Ian Garry's. That's where he's going to try and take him down. and it's certainly not as good as a professional boxer, okay?
Adding to another perspective, Laura Sanko makes it clear this matchup is a serious test for both Islam Makhachev and Ian Garry, with neither fighter getting an easy path to victory. She highlights Islam's elite control, pressure, and ability to drag opponents into deep waters, while Garry's range, movement, and confidence could create major problems. But once Islam gets his hands on Garry, Sanko sees the fight becoming a completely different battle where the champion can dictate the pace. This isn't just experience versus youth, it's a collision between Islam's suffocating dominance and Garry's dangerous, fearless ambition.
What do you think about the kicks between these two? Because I think the kicks are going to be an interesting factor in a variety of different ways. You've got Ian Machado Garry, who's obviously going to try to keep this fight at a distance, use his movement, use his amazing footwork, use his jab, and he's got fantastic kicks, like his little rear leg oblique kick that he does. He's got a great calf kick. He's got great front kicks. But on the flip side, I also wonder if the kicks of Makhachev are going to be a factor, because when you watch the way his stance was against Bilal, very front leg heavy, lead leg heavy, anticipating, getting underhooks and anticipating the possibility of wrestling. But Bilal didn't really target his lead leg too much. I can just see I can see Makhachev doing that. What do you think?
Well, I think Makhachev is a better striker than Bilal.
Mm-hmm.
A more disciplined and more regimented striker than Bilal. But when you talk about kicks, you can't just talk about the kicks. You have to talk about leg speed in general, which I think Ian Garry's going to have a huge advantage of. Just leg speed in general, whether it's moving his feet around the cage and then throwing kicks. Like, his leg speed is going to be fast. And I think that could be the difference. When I first said the imposition of skill, I think that's the biggest factor that Ian Garry's going to have is leg speed, whether it's that front kick up the middle, the oblique kick, or just moving his feet on the outside to create the angles and the range that he needs in order to throw them kicks, or to get Makhachev to run into something. But his leg speed is going to be very critical in his success in this fight.
Din Thomas comes in with a serious warning about the danger both fighters bring, making it clear this matchup could turn violent fast. He emphasizes that Islam's pressure and grappling can completely change the fight once he gets his hands on Ian Garry. But Thomas also recognizes Garry's speed, distance management, and striking as weapons that could punish Islam if he gets careless. In other words, one mistake could flip the entire fight, and Thomas sees both men having the tools to make that mistake brutally expensive.
And that's hard to say because we haven't seen Islam fight anybody built like that.
Mm-hmm.
What we did see was Islam fight shorter guys that gave him problems. Which is why I always thought Ilya would give him problems. So we know that he likes to shoot or get in, and he uses a lot of trips to get guys down, which if he's going to get Ian down, he's going to have to be able to chain wrestle and use trips. He's got a lot of legs to work with in that situation. So it might work to his advantage. But him being able to get back up if he gets taken down, I don't see that happening.
However, Laura Sanko made it clear that Ian Garry cannot afford to underestimate Islam Makhachev's ability to control the fight. She highlighted Islam's elite grappling, pressure, and intelligence as major weapons that could completely disrupt Garry's game. But she also recognized Garry's confidence, movement, and striking as dangerous threats that could make this a nightmare matchup for Islam. In her eyes, this isn't a simple champion versus contender fight. One mistake could turn the entire UFC 330 showdown upside down.
Shark Sports Cards says, how much does the size factor, or do you think Islam will be fine? We kind of just went over that, but it's hard to say. I think it'll be a factor.
You think it will be?
I do. I'm not saying it'll be the factor that changes the whole, the whole complexion of the fight, but I think we will see early on Islam having a little bit of I got to figure out how to get in on this guy. This is different. I'm eating a lot of these oblique kicks. I love the oblique kicks. They're so safe. You're never going to get taken down from them. You don't have to change your position to throw them because it doesn't require you to take a step like a big kickboxing or Muay Thai kick does. And they force the opponent, when thrown properly, it's like a forced reset. You know, you might be in the middle of moving forward and you get kicked like that, and it doesn't even look like no one's going to get knocked out from that, of course, but just that slight halt to your momentum often forces people to stop, okay, and then readjust, get their positioning right, and then go again. It's such a small but really effective tool, and I think stuff like that, and given the length of Ian Machado Garry's legs and just his height, is going to be tricky, but I think ultimately it'll be something that Islam figures out. I just think in the beginning it might be interesting.
In the end, Din Thomas emphasized that this matchup could come down to who can impose their game first. He pointed to Islam's pressure and grappling as a brutal problem, especially if Garry gets trapped against the cage. But Thomas also made it clear that Garry's range, movement, and striking could punish Islam if he gives him space. This is a dangerous chess match with one wrong move, and either fighter could completely take over.
Islam is so precise with this technique. If he can get his hands locked, it won't be a factor at all. Like, I don't see him being like getting in on a shot, his hands are locked, and then Ian Garry is like that much bigger and stronger and just goes and pries him off. I don't see that being a factor at all. I think that if he can get in on him, get his hands locked, I think if he can get his hips, I think he takes him down easily. If he gets to his hips, he takes him down easily. But that's a different type of size than the length of him. So getting to that point can be a factor. But then again, that's also but that's also incorporated with Ian's speed too, because he's not going to stand still. Like him moving, and he's going to be farther away than Islam's going to imagine. So it's kind of a tricky question to answer, the size being a factor.
As Islam Makhachev is turning up the intensity and his raw training footage sends a clear warning to Ian Garry, Michael Bisping sees Garry's size, speed, range, and striking as a nightmare matchup for the champion. Meanwhile, Josh Thompson and Javier Mendez believe Islam's underrated striking could create huge openings once Garry fears the takedown. Laura Sanko and Din Thomas both highlight Garry's intelligence and accuracy, but warn that Islam's pressure and grappling can completely change the fight. With UFC 330 approaching, this looks like a brutal 5-round chess match where one mistake could decide everything. UFC 330 is shaping up to be a war between Islam's suffocating pressure and Garry's dangerous range and precision. Will Islam drag Garry into deep waters, or can the Irishman shock the champion and expose a new weakness? Fight night is coming, and the answers are about to be revealed. If you're hyped for Islam Makhachev versus Ian Garry, smash that like button and share this video with another UFC fan. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you don't miss the latest UFC 330 breakdowns and fight updates.